Hello and welcome to Homemade. I'm Chef Krista. Today we are going to be making an amazing bread. We are partnering with North Carolina Sweet Potatoes. I am joined here today by Chef Amy. So if you have questions about sweet potatoes, you have opinions about sweet potatoes, go ahead and put them in the chat. We are going to be responding. Amy is going to be doing all kinds of fun things today. Hi, Amy.
Hi, Chef. Yeah, I am so excited today. We have an awesome goodie bag giveaway from our friends at North Carolina Sweet Potato. And if you want a chance to win that, drop us your favorite way to eat sweet potatoes in the chat. And then stay on, make sure you're with us throughout the class. And at the end of class, we will pick a winner.
Yes, awesome. A randomly chosen winner. Put your ideas for sweet potatoes. Let's take it beyond the marshmallow, no marshmallow fight. Let's take it to what do you love to do that's interesting with sweet potatoes. This bag has some fun coasters and kitchen tools, great recipes, and this funny little guy that maybe needs a name. And so please drop your ideas into the chat and randomly chosen winner at the end. So let's get going on our recipe. We are going to be featuring sweet potatoes in a bread, which is just wild and wonderful. I don't know how many people here have heard of Babka, but it is, I'd say Babka is the beauty queen of breads because it is this gorgeous, twisty loaf with a filling that just expands. It's really beautiful, and we're going to take what's usually just an enriched dough. So if you've made a brioche of some kind, you're going to make an enriched dough, and we are going to add to that enriched dough a baked sweet potato. So the first step is to have your sweet potato about this size, so a handsome, medium-sized, handsome sweet potato, and then we are baking that at 400. And it's going to shrink a little bit, and all those sugars caramelize. So we're roasting that sweet potato for the caramelization to happen. And we're going to add it directly into our dough, and it's going to add a lot of flavor. That roasting is what's bringing out the natural sugars. It's adding, but not in an overly sweet way. What's really sweet is the filling, actually. So we're roasting our sweet potato and then letting it cool. We're going to add our dry ingredients to the mixer, and then our wet ingredients, including that potato. So I have about 3.5 cups of all-purpose flour, 1/4 cup of sugar, a 2¼ cup, so 1 packet of instant yeast, a little bit of salt, and just a little bit of cinnamon. You don't want to put too much cinnamon into the dough itself because cinnamon is actually an inhibitor, and it won't rise. So we're gonna give that a little mix and we have some warm milk and some room temperature softened butter and 2 eggs, also at room temperature. First, I'm going to mash up my potato. This recipe does not call for the skin on. Look at how nicely that just peels off. And it's going to add beautiful color to our dough. So there is our sweet potato, nice and soft. And we're just gonna mash it up. It doesn't have to be perfect, but it's roasted nice and soft. And we want it to add up to about 1 cup.
Chef, there's a question. How warm is the warm milk?
Just like tepid warm, so you don't want it out of the fridge, but you don't want it scalding hot. Baby's bottle milk temperature is what you want. So about 100, 110, but not any hotter than that. Okay, so I'm actually gonna add this in to help it disperse through the recipe. And it's nice to have all your ingredients at room temperature. So take your eggs out, and if you forgot to take them out to room temperature, put them in a glass of warm water, and that will help bring it up to room temperature. Like I said, I'm just putting these all together to help them disperse through the recipe.
And then, Chef, any ideas on a substitute for the milk and butter if you wanted to go dairy-free?
You can definitely use an alternative milk here. I would use one of the lighter ones, so don't go for coconut, or that's pretty fatty. So go for just an almond or a soy milk. And then in terms of the butter, it's 4 tablespoons, and I would just use your butter alternative as well. And it should all work lovely, just lovely. All right, and I'm gonna put this room temperature, and when I say room temperature, it's going to be able to sort of smush in my hand and disperse throughout the dough. So that's what you're looking for, is you want pressed but not melted, right? So getting my fingers all over this dough. Sorry, friends. So we're putting that in and into our mixer, and this is such a forgiving recipe. Like, just go for it. Put it all in. We'll start mixing, and then we'll add in our sweet potatoes and our milk and eggs. So just on like medium low. Look at that.
And there was a question earlier in the chat if you could make this dish if you didn't have a stand mixer. And I was mentioning that they would just need to knead by hands. Any other insights that you want to offer for that?
Just know that it's going to take a little bit more time. We're just going to knead this for about 5 or 6 minutes on that function. And if you're doing this by hand in a bowl, like, it's first going to look like this, not really coming together. But then when it starts to come together, I like to use a really big bowl that then I can get in there and knead and bring it together. And it's going to take about 8 or 10 minutes of that kind of kneading versus the 5 or 6 that we're going through here. The other thing I would say that makes this recipe great and very forgiving is that it is a very moist dough, and adding in a sweet potato like this is going to help it stay fresh longer. So that sweet potato has certain kinds of starches, and the moisture from the sweet potato are going to keep your bread moist a whole lot longer than just your traditional like wheat bread. And it hasn't been 5 minutes, but it's this beautiful pale color, and it's developing that gluten through it. And you can see now that we've lost track of our butter streaks. We know they're in there, but it's not like you can see clumps of it anymore. And same with the potato itself. It's pretty much gone. But we're going to give this a little bit more time kneading. And then, and while we're doing that, we will make our filling. So the filling is 6 tablespoons of butter and a 1/2 cup of brown sugar, going into a small pot on the stove. You want to get the butter melted and brown sugar all kind of uniform and dissolved. Now, I personally think that adding these spices in right now is going to make a lot of the flavors of the spice bloom, but we don't want to burn the spices, so use your judgment in terms of when things have melted. The spices that we're using in this today are just so fabulous. So we're quite a bit of cinnamon, 1.5 teaspoons of cinnamon, 1.5 teaspoons of cardamom, and that's the real, has a little bit of a spice to it, and so there's the ginger, some ground cloves, and some ground nutmeg, and I'm gonna do the nutmeg fresh right into this. So you can see that our sugar has dissolved. I'm gonna put all these spices in here. Cardamom is just one of the coziest flavors, I think, and you see it in a lot of different baked goods, especially in the winter. So that is in there, and then our nutmeg. Nutmeg is this fun little, almost like a nut, really, and it comes from a tree in the Caribbean, so we're bringing some warmth from the Caribbean up into our sweet potato recipe, and the best way to really get the flavor from it is to grate it yourself into whatever it is you're using. And then we're gonna add almond flour. So we have almond flour, That is helping all these spices and things to stay in place. And it's gonna help us also cool this down a little bit so that it's ready to spread. And one last thing we're gonna put in is a little almond extract, about a half teaspoon, to just amplify that almond flavor, which is another delicious friend. So what we're gonna do here is we're gonna take our dough out of the stand mixer, and we're gonna give it, we're gonna put a little bit of butter, a little bit of oil into the bowl that you're gonna let it rise in. The other thing I really like to do is I spend all that time with the mixer, but I think it's great to be able to get under there and give it a couple of scoops to bring it together with a dough scraper, right? A bench scraper. This is a flexible one like this. And we are just going to plop this into another bowl so that you can compare it to the one. So this is about how much you have of dough, and it's got this nice silky texture. It is pretty sticky, I will say, and that's okay. That's what's gonna give it the moisture and just sort of the tenderness that we're looking for. So put that into a bowl. Some gets on your hands. Oh well, you can use your dough scraper to get it off. You can also throw a little flour on your hands and just rub it off instead of putting it in the sink directly. So that's that. It's going to rise in there for about an hour or two. If you keep your house pretty cold, a nice way to create a little rising, cozy nook for your dough is to have the oven on at about 200 as you started making this. Maybe get it to 200 for 15 minutes, then turn it off, and then cover this and put it in your off oven. And keep it in there to rise if you keep your house sort of cold. And then the other thing to think about is you could also put it in your microwave. I like to steam just a cup of water, like put a cup of hot tea in there and your dough, and then the tea and the dough, they're cozy and they're hanging out in the microwave and they're rising, just so that you've got a little bit warmer rising zone. Or if you're cooking, put it on the back of your stove or next to your stove, covered, so that it gets a chance to rise. So we're gonna put this back here to rise, and we're gonna bring our TV Magic dough out. And this is our risen dough. So you can see here that it has risen just a little bit, you know. It's not grapefruit sized anymore. This has been rising, so it's got a little bit of give. If you can see that, the indentation is staying and just a little bit coming back up. So we're gonna very lightly flour our board. Our filling is cooling, so we sped up time a little bit and we're ready to work on this lovely dough. So just a light flouring. More recipes coming in, lovely ideas.
Oh my gosh, still so many great ideas. Also, was just gonna mention, there's a lot of questions from folks about the specifics on the filling and substitutions and all those things we were mentioning.
Yeah.
And I was just gonna add to that there are a lot of different ways you can do fillings for a babka, and so the specifics, like substituting this sugar, that sugar, make it the flavor that you want it to be.
Yeah.
My view, right?
I would say make it the flavor you want. When I tested this at home, was impressed by the quantity. So 1.5 teaspoons, like it's a lot. All that flavor is going right into that butter and sugar mixture. So I would use those same ratios, right? Is use 1.5 teaspoons. All right, so now we're rolling, deflating. You can see it just deflated. Oh, sad, but no.
It'll come back.
It'll come back. Deflating it actually helps spread out the yeast and gives the yeast something new to feed on. So that's what this second rise is doing. And so this is now cooled. I can stick my finger in this, it's fine. And it's turned into more of like a paste consistency, and that's what we want. So we're gonna smear this on here. That color is just lovely. We're gonna go for the all the way, spread to the edges. All right, so now if I was worried about the filling falling out, I would just do one, and then I'm pressing it in. Whoop. And then it's lengthwise like this, and this is where the babka magic starts to happen. This, if you think of babka that you've seen in the store, it's this beautiful swirly roll, right? And so what you're gonna do is just start picking up the end closest to you and rolling it towards the center and kind of pinching as you go to keep it all in there. You can use your bench scraper if you'd like. I'm more of a hands-on person, so I'm gonna roll it like this, pressing it so that that filling stays in there and gets sort of adhered to the roll as you go. And this dough is so lovely and so forgiving. There we go. So now, where's my pan? So now I have a prepared pan, and what I did to the pan was just buttered the inside of it, more butter, I know. You can spray it if you want. And then one little parchment sleeve is sitting in it, and we're going to make this fit in there. So I want to also highlight that I'm going to pinch it closed so that nothing rolls out. I'm pinching that final edge just for making it look a little bit more together. I'm going to cut off the ends, and I'll show you what I'm going to do with those in a second. So the signature babka look is now put that seam down, and then you're going to cut right down the middle of it. And reveal these beautiful layers of spice, right? Like this. You want to pull that apart. I might cut a little bit more. This is the part that I loved about this, because this feels like, whoa, it's crazy. It's wobbly, and it's still going to be beautiful no matter how you twist it. Okay, so kind of twisting it on top of each other. If you've made babka before, you know you're going to, don't fuss with it too much. Like, this is great. Here's our pan. We want it to fit in there. Sometimes I just tuck these ends under. I'm going to cut a little bit more off, and you'll see the fun thing I do with those. And then I'm going to go under like this, and then just with confidence, move this beautiful swirly masterpiece into your pan. Kerploop. So don't fuss too much. It's going to rise now, and it's going to fill in and poof out in all of these places. With your little funny ends, bits and bobs, you can take that same dough, and I did this already a little bit earlier, and just cram it into a pan and make it into a muffin-sized number. And it doesn't matter. Again, it doesn't matter. It's going to be pretty with whatever swirls it comes out with. It's like a little mini swirl babka.
I love this idea. I haven't done that before.
Yeah, just make a little babka roll. There you go. So this is a great comparison. This one is going to rise now for another hour for this second hour, and then I'll show you how we're going to bake it off. All right. So because we wanted to be able to show you all the steps of the process, I'm going to show you our other risen dough already. We'll let those guys warm away in their kitchen, their happy place. And I'll show you our risen dough. He was in here with a cup of tea, getting this beautiful rise. So this is the second rise. We'll put it next to the first one so you can see. Same amount of dough. You know, we cut off some ends so that the swirl was perfect, right? So we have our just about to go for its rise dough, and we're going to put it in the microwave with a cup of tea for an hour. And then we have this dough already risen, and we're going to gild the lily, because why not, right? We want it to be, you can see already here all this brown sugar and goodness, but if you want to give it a little bit of a glossy finish, you're going to make an egg wash over the top of it. So we're going to do just one egg. You can add a little bit of water if you'd like, but our wash is an egg, and then we're using some demerara sugar. This is turbinado, also called turbinado sugar. This is, like I said, this is kind of taking it over the top because it's already tons of sugar. But the key here is that you want to just brush ever so gently the doughy parts. And try not to go all the way to the edge, because sometimes going to the edge with the egg wash means the egg bakes first and it sticks to the side, and so it won't let that part of the dough rise. So just try to stay in the middle with your egg wash. So there's our egg wash, and just a little bit more sugar. Oh my word.
I feel like with the rest of the sugar, this tiny little bit doesn't even, it's not even anything.
Right? Our half a cup of brown sugar in the filling. This is probably a tablespoon over the top here. I think the other important thing to know at this stage of the game is that, like I said, we have so much sugar in the dough and we have so much sugar on top now that this is definitely a recipe that I would make a foil tent for. I make a foil tent by just making little spot for it to stand over in the oven. And we're going to bake it off. So I want to show you the finished product here, because we're not going to, the smell of this is going to fill our studio, it's going to fill your home, but we want you to see the finished product to really be enticed to make it. So let me show you our finished bread right here. So we've pulled it out of the pan by using that little parchment sling. And the other thing I want you to do, like I said, it's going to cook and brown a lot faster than most other breads. So definitely take the temperature of your bread. And the temperature that we're looking for here is 190 degrees. And so that's when you're going to jam your thermometer right down into the middle of the bread, give it a second, and get it to 190 degrees. It will look browner than usual, most likely. You can take that foil tent off in the last 5 minutes or so if it's not browning to this gorgeous color that we have here. But I'm going to slice into this so that you all see the Babka swirl throughout. Now, like I said, the sweet potatoes are going to make this bread last longer, but I don't think it's going to last past a day in your house, right?
Last where?
All right, so look at these swirls in this bread, which, it's a beautifully topped swirled bread. Inside, more beautiful swirls, and I'm going to taste it just because I can't resist. Thank you. I hope you guys go ahead and try this. It's an amazing recipe. Add some sweet potatoes in to any recipe that you already love. Make it even tastier with a sweet potato. Thank you for watching tonight. Just all our classes are available. You can check that out on withhomemade.com/cooking classes. So you'll see all our upcoming classes and all of our previously recorded classes there. If you want to show your friends, hey, this is the recipe I want you to make for brunch next week, just send it to them. You can also find us online at @HomemadeIsLive. Thank you so much for joining us. Amy, I'm going to have a bite of this, and then I'm going to serve you a slice too.
I'm so jealous. I'm glad to get it in a couple of seconds.
All right. I hope your kitchen is your happy place. Have a great night.